Twisted Ideas, Terror Story by Rolando Enrique Rosales Murga. It seems alarming to me how many people now share the air with us on this planet. People drown toward what is twisted, who desire nothing more than to kill and harm their fellow human beings without the slightest mercy, children of ignominy, such as Alfred V. Beck, a young man born into privilege who allegedly killed 39 people upon reaching the age of 39 precisely, supposedly dying of hepatitis under strange circumstances. It was not surprising to many that this young man was bloodthirsty, since his grandfather, now a Christian, still recounts his gruesome testimony to whoever stands before him, speaking of his past life, of how he murdered those who trespassed onto his land and drank their brains. He says it with a certain air of satisfaction. The old man is utterly horrifying. His death gaze gives him the appearance of the vultures so common in the region of the country where I live. His father also murdered several people. They lived in a province where the law belongs to whoever carries a weapon. I remember Alfred when he awoke. Every morning he would begin screaming under the effects of sleepwalking. He shouted strange things such as, "I will return you to the grave." I already did it once. At first, I paid little attention to it until I learned with horror what he truly meant. I saw him kill. With my own eyes, I witnessed the moment when, using a shoelace, he strangled a man tied to a chair. I was barely 8 years old, only a child. Who was going to believe me? Yet I knew this was only one more name on the list. On the outskirts of the city, there is a small volcano called Kulma. That was the preferred place for hitmen and scoundrels to dispose of corpses. They also say that Alfred killed his stepfather, a cruel and ruthless man toward his elderly mother, who had separated from his father only a short time before. This act was praised within his family. They were all murderers, and none of them felt pity for anyone. I continued my investigation into that criminal mind until I finally reached the depths of it and was horrified upon learning of such macabre acts, which he himself recounted to me. There was one in particular he never told me directly as a child. It is terrible to hear things so grotesquely out of context, yet I brought it upon myself by snooping around. He was part of my family, having married one of my cousins some years earlier, and now, without further detours, I will get to the point. He was the author of his own brother's murder, a man who owned a small liquor shop inside a modest house. He used to keep his money beneath the mattress. I knew Alfred had done it the moment it happened, because the Doberman guarding the little house made no sound whatsoever that could have alerted the neighbors. Furthermore, his brother had been murdered in his room with repeated hammer blows that shattered his skull, and the money was gone. Only 30 minutes earlier, Alfred himself had reported his brother's death. Rest in peace, Magnus B. Beck. Alfred claimed to know the whereabouts of the hitman responsible for killing his brother. A week later, a man was found hanging from a ceiba tree near the local cemetery. He was wearing a jacket that had belonged to the late Magnus. People say justice had finally been served for the blood that had been spilled, but no one knew the truth. only I carried it within my childish mind. After countless torments every morning, Alfred would rise and pretend to be well. He used to say that whenever he went to the bathroom, he felt invisible hands squeezing his heels, keeping him there for long periods of time, sometimes for hours. I always thought he was insane, yet he persisted in telling his unbelievable and at times even ridiculous stories. Thus, the years passed, and he slowly began to wither away and suffer. On one occasion, they tried to kill him, but being highly cunning, he managed to escape while bleeding profusely. Among other injuries, they had made a deep incision in the palm of his hand, destroying every vein and tendon to such an extent that the four fingers of his right hand, from pinky to index, remained permanently contracted as though grasping a weapon. That was how he spent the final years of his life, until one day he was bedridden with hepatitis. It was the second time the illness had struck him, but this time he knew there was no hope. He began losing his hair rapidly, and they said that before dying he confessed to murdering his beloved brother out of greed. He begged heaven for forgiveness, but by then there was no forgiveness left for him, neither in this life nor in the next.